You know, when you picture an airplane's cockpit, you probably imagine two pilots sitting side by side, right? Well, that standard two-person setup we all know is actually the finish line of this incredible 100-year-long journey of tech and evolution. Okay, let's get into it. So that's really the big question we're tackling today. And it sounds simple, but the answer takes us on this wild ride, from a single pilot in an open-air plane to these jam-packed cockpits full of specialists. And then, believe it or not, all the way back to a super streamlined, high-tech team. Okay, check this out. This timeline basically maps out our entire story. Just look at that curve. It's crazy. We start with one pilot, then the number just explodes to four, even more crew members. And after that, it's a steady march back down to the two we're used to today. So what happened? Let's start at the very beginning. All right, so let's rewind. Our journey kicks off in the first few decades of flying, which was truly the era of the lone pioneer. I mean, just picture it. The very first airplanes were pretty darn basic machines. The systems were so simple, so straightforward, that one pilot, often in an open cockpit, could totally handle the whole shebang. Flying the plane, managing the engine, it was literally a one-person show. But, things rarely stay simple for long, right? As airplanes got bigger and way more capable, the flight deck started to get, well, very crowded. Welcome to the age of specialists. And what was driving all this? Technology, of course, especially during the years between the wars. And then, boom, World War II. Planes became absolute giants. These new multi-engine bombers were incredibly complex, and the workload to just get them off the ground into their target was way too much for one person. And this slide, it just perfectly shows you how packed it got. You didn't just have a pilot and a co-pilot anymore. No way. You needed a navigator whose only job was to figure out where you were going. You needed a radio operator just to handle communications. And of course, you needed gunners for defense. Every single person had a vital, specialized job. It was like a busy command center in the sky. But then, right after hitting that peak number of crew members, the whole trend just flips on its head. The post-war era kicked off what you could call the automation revolution, where technology itself basically took a seat in the cockpit, starting this big shrink in crew size. And the why behind this shift? Well, it was pretty clear. The whole aviation industry started focusing on making things more efficient, more streamlined, and, this is the big one, using technology to cut down on the chances for human error. The goal was a smarter, safer, and leaner flight deck. This is where you can really see that revolution in action. The human navigator with maps and charts replaced by super accurate inertial navigation systems. The dedicated radio operator, their job got absorbed by new advanced communication systems. And all those complex dials and switches the flight engineer managed, a lot of that was taken over by autopilots and brand new digital displays. One by one, technology made these human jobs, well, redundant. And all of that brings us right up to the modern era and the flight deck we all recognize today. This super integrated digital world of the two-person team, all made possible by something called the glass cockpit. So you hear this term glass cockpit. What does it actually mean? Well, put simply, it's where all those old-school analog dials and gauges, the clocks and needles, get swapped out for digital computer screens. And this is a game changer because it lets you display a ton of information really clearly, right when the pilots need it most. And that technological leap, it was really the final piece of the puzzle. With these incredibly advanced avionics, all the systems talking to each other, and fly-by-wire controls, the entire workload of flying a massive airliner suddenly became totally manageable for just two people. The need for that third or fourth crew member just vanished. Okay, so let's put a bow on this. Let's really break down the why behind this incredible transformation. From a cockpit crowded with specialists to the lean, two-person team we have now. It really all boils down to these three key things. First up, just constant mind-blowing advancements in technology, from navigation to computers. Second, this relentless push for operational efficiency, making flying cheaper and more reliable. And third, a core belief that smart automation could actually improve safety by taking some of the load off the crew and reducing the chance for error. So at the end of the day, that cockpit you see on a modern airliner, it's not just some random design choice. It's the product of 100 years of innovation. It represents this perfect,
carefully struck balance between human skill and decision-making, which is irreplaceable, and incredibly powerful, reliable technology.
And that kind of leaves us with one last really interesting question to chew on. Our whole story started with a single pilot. As automation gets even better, even more advanced, could we actually see history come full circle and witness the return of the lone pilot? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.